Some, like my family, has the cable bundle plus what feels like 10 to 15 other sub-subscriptions for things like HBO Max and Netflix and stuff like that. So I would say you'd start first with the traditional cable bundle, especially satellite television. That's a very negotiable item.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Collar Wealth Podcast. And we call it that because this is a show about real finance for real people. We often get asked, what kind of clients do you work with at Stonehouse? And the term that I always like to use is blue collar wealth. Most of our clients have anywhere from $500,000 to many millions of dollars saved up in their retirement, but they don't necessarily care about buying a giant yacht somewhere and sailing it to the south of France. Most of our clients ask us, how do we squeeze more juice out of our retirement, and how do we live a long, happy, healthy life? My name's Bob Brown. I'm a certified financial planner and a founding partner here at Stonehouse Retirement Income Planners. I've had the privilege of helping many families plan and live their lives for over 20-some years now. I'm part of a growing team here at Stonehouse, and we've seen our clients go through a ton of different things in their lives. And now, thanks to the beauty of the podcast, we can share some of those stories and maybe even some shortcuts to hopefully get you on track and stay on track with your own finances. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to hack your monthly bills. You may very well be feeling shocked about how much money you actually see go back out your door in order to keep your household running. And many of you have been frustrated because it seems like the only way to be able to save more is to make more. And that's not usually an easy thing to do. It's kind of a catch-22, and hence your feeling of frustration. You're not alone in this. Trust me, many people just like you feel this way. So by the end of this podcast, I hope that we're able to get you to a better place where you can understand the importance of controlling your expenses, how to get the most bang for your buck, and most certainly, maybe a few places to start right off the bat. So maybe we can even find a way for you to just push an easy button or something and let somebody else walk you through it. To help me discuss hacking your monthly bills today, I brought in John Burke, one of my partners here at Stonehouse. John's also an advisor at Stonehouse and has a lot of experience walking people through that are in situations just like you, people who are cringing every time they take a look at their monthly expenses. All right, so John, thank you very much for joining me today. So we're going to try to keep this on point because there's a lot we could talk about. But
sure,
I know no one else in my life who pays more attention to expenses than you do, not only for your clients, but for yourself as well. And we're always sharing ideas, and you're one of the biggest sources of ideas, and you've saved me money through the years that I've known you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
So let's talk about, before we talk about specifics, let's talk about, from a client's perspective, for anyone's perspective, why is it so important to pay attention to your monthly expenses? Where did that come from with you?
Yeah, I would say that for me personally, a lot of that focus on expenses came from my time at Procter & Gamble. There were several roles that I had, which included budgeting. And so a budget seems like a nasty word for most folks in terms of household.
Hate talking about budget,
it's tough, and it's not fun regardless of the organization that you're involved with. And I do that now also with our local school board. I'm the treasurer there as well, which includes a lot of the budgeting and things like that. So I don't do that, but I get to the opportunity to review budgets and things like that. But that focus back at P&G, Procter & Gamble is very good at cutting expenses. And so that laser focus on where does the money go and what can we do to avoid some of that, I think is where my interest in this has come from, if you could call it an interest. And so I think with that background has led me to really take a look at that stuff personally and for myself and my family, but also hopefully help some clients be able to save some of that money as well. And so the way I like to think about that is if you save money on something where you don't notice a difference in service level, now you have extra money to spend on something you actually might enjoy versus kind of throwing that money down the drain.
I think it's a lot of things. Like from personal experience, I've seen little hacks on the internet. You're cruising through your phone. You're like, oh, that's kind of neat. I'm never going to do it. Right. But you're one of the folks I know that does it. And I think when you say the reason is that if you can save $100 a month, it's $100, but it's $100 times 12 months times 5 years, 10 years. That money adds up. And when people get to retirement, they will always wish they had a little bit more.
Right.
And so these are little ways that you can add more.
Yeah. So I would say a few examples of ways that we've gone about that. It definitely takes hard work and dedication. And so depending on, somebody's availability of time and detail, that's something that their advisor might be able to help them with. But things that come to mind that I think are easy. So try to pick the ones that are going to get the most impact first.
Sure.
And so the ones that usually come to my mind are those around TV subscriptions. And so, it used to be you just had a
bane of everyone's existence.
Yeah, I know. You used to have one single subscription and that was out there. And now the world has changed a little bit where, the traditional cable bundle may not even exist for some folks. Some, like my family, has the cable bundle plus what feels like 10 to 15 other sub-subscriptions for things like HBO Max and Netflix and stuff like that. So I would say you'd start first with the traditional cable bundle, especially satellite television. That's a very negotiable item. And so I don't currently have that, but I've had it in the past. And every year I would just set a reminder in my phone that would come up to say, hey, it's time to negotiate that bill again. And so when you call those individuals, you basically, if you've been loyal to them for many years, you can work with them on pricing. So what I mean by that is, just tell them, hey, I'm paying too much and I want a lower price. And sometimes it basically telling them, hey, I'm going to cancel this, and they'll transfer you to a cancellations department, and they'll be happy to negotiate a lower price for you for 6 months, 12 months. The terms would depend. But I would say I would start with that traditional cable bundle.
So would you say don't take the first offer? It depends how much intestinal fortitude you have, right?
Yeah, it depends on the person who's calling, their approach. I'm pretty aggressive about that because I've done it a few times, but I know I could think of a client that I recently worked with. She was pretty nervous about making that phone call, and she was proud to call me back several days later to tell me that they had a huge discount on their ongoing Dish Network subscription. And so it was a 30 to 40% off their ongoing price for the next year. And so I think that's a pretty cool thing. They can use that money for something else. And then some other low-hanging fruit, if you for a serious, internet radio is something that's very negotiable. We can usually get about a 50% discount on that. And I would say I'm not a really tough negotiator. I mean, I ask for quite a bit, but I'll usually take the second offer, something like that.
What's the downside? I mean, if worst case scenario, they say, sorry, we can't go any lower, and they cancel your account, you just call back the next day and say, hey, I changed my mind? Sure.
I mean, and I've actually never gotten to that point, so I've never gotten to the point where it ends up, well, they're actually going to cancel it as you're negotiating. But clearly you could always stop and say, that second offer I had was good enough, or, just kind of start over. But there's usually alternatives out there. Satellite radio is something that, Sirius is the biggest one out there, but there's other options today that folks could use. And then associated with those sub-subscriptions, I would say something else to watch for is signing up for the introductory periods for something like, let's say, a Paramount Plus subscription. You sign up for the 3 months free through Amazon or something like that, and then you never look back to see that ongoing $5.99 or $9.99 or whatever charge that is. So one of the things that I try to do is I every 3 months take a look at what are those ongoing subscriptions, and they're sometimes very hard to find now. Yeah. So depending on your
go by different names on your credit card
different
statement.
Names, and some are set up through iTunes. I'm an Apple ecosystem, so some are in there, some are in your Amazon Prime subscription. You can subscribe to others through that. And so I would just say, when you sign up for them, I try to make a note to follow up before that introductory period ends. The other thing that I do, and it sometimes aggravates my family a little bit, is I'll usually cancel immediately. Meaning, HBO Max comes up for a subscription, I'll sign up for the 1 month, and then I'll immediately cancel it, and then it continues for the rest of that month, but it doesn't set you up into a position that automatically gets renewed. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes there's I
don't think that's how they drafted it.
No, I don't think that's what they wanted. But there's sometimes a new show that somebody wants to see that's only on Netflix or whatever that is, and then a month goes by and nobody's ever watching it anyway. And so if you don't have to pay for something like that, that's the optimal scenario.
It's just one of the things I like to do is about once a quarter I print off our credit card statement, and we pretty much use one card for the bulk of our purchases. And I just sit down at like dinner time and go through it with the family. It's painful.
I'm sure they like that.
But I have to say, just a little hack like that for my household, is it always uncovers at least one, if not several things of like, wow, I don't remember signing up for that. And I'm like, all right, let's cancel it.
Yeah.
We're not using it, right?
Right.
It's wasted money.
Right. Yeah. And so I think that's a great action step. The other thing is, some more of the traditional things that we work with clients are shopping around for things like your insurance. I could think of a client who recently switched providers, and he had, I think it was 2 or 3 cars in his home policy, but he saved, it was about $800 or $900 a year on that cost, and he's getting the same or similar coverage to what he had before. So there's some really great things like that you can do, and then there's some more of the lower hanging fruit, things like shopping around for your electricity supplier, generation charges. You can keep whether it's Penelec or whoever that provider is, but you can shop out the generation charges. Things like your next heating oil delivery versus just going with the same provider you've had, kind of call around and get an idea of are there lower costs available there as well. So, that's part of our life stack process that we run within Stonehouse, to take a look at budgeting and income and those sorts of items. And so I feel like there's some action steps out there that folks can take.
So if I'm listening to this right now and I'm thinking, man, I got a bunch of opportunities in my life that I should do. Like, what's the first step? Like, what should someone do? You mentioned the low hanging fruit. Should you train on that little easy stuff first before you go after the big boys? Yeah,
I mean, the first action step is something that most people aren't going to necessarily want to do, but really looking at that budget from top to bottom. And so there's a piece of this by negotiation of bills, and there's a piece of, oh my God, I didn't realize I was spending that much money on X, Y, and Z, and is that really the choice I want to make? So there's some really nice data aggregators out there that pull in all of your expenses. Sites like mint.com, and there's some other ones out there. They would help you prioritize, where is your money going on a monthly basis. And then, as you said, pick one of those that you feel like you can negotiate. Again, back to the internet stuff like that is something you can negotiate. If you have a home security system, they're usually quite negotiable as well. And things like that, you could try one out. Pick the TV subscription first, because that's probably the most used to out there, and then practice on that, and then we'd help from there.
And it's probably about getting momentum. I always think that's important with folks. So like, take something you think you can do before you go after the bigger ticket items. And once you start to have some success, you start to get momentum, some more confidence, and you can do that. Most of us don't like walking on the car lot and negotiating vehicles. There are some people that like it, but I'm not one of them. And so I'd rather just take the easy, simple steps, get that thing going. And I've followed some of your advice through the years, and you've saved you some money, brother.
Good.
So thank you very much.
You got it.
I hope this was helpful for you. And if you want to start hacking your own life, get your monthly bills back down to a much more manageable amount, that'd be great. If you want to talk about advice or how that extra money you save can be used toward your future, saving for your retirement or whatever your goals are, let us know at Stonehouse. Reach out to us, and we love talking about that stuff. We'll always have an open door for you.